Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Dan Reviews It. This time looking at some brand new DVD releases that a lot of them actually I've already talked about between Oscar movies and Greatest Showman has its own standalone review. So really I'm going to focus on two that I haven't talked about yet and just sort of give brief reminders of the other ones. But this is sort of the tail end now of Oscar movies being put on DVD. So this week, well, Greatest Showman wasn't too Oscar nominated, just the best original song. But then you've got Molly's Game, All the Money in the World, and Phantom Thread, all which got, some sort of nomination, whether it be in the acting categories or writing or directing, I guess, right? Phantom Thread got Best Director. And then the other two we're going to talk about are Proud Mary and My Friend Dahmer, which are brand new on DVD and Blu-ray. So, first up, like I said, I'm going to just kind of briefly go over some of the ones I've already talked about. Greatest Showman has its own standalone video. If you really want to know my thoughts on it, you can check that out. But this is a great movie. I originally gave it a B+, but upon second viewing and subsequent viewings after that, it's a really great movie. I had a comment on my Greatest Showman video that the movie does lack substance, and I sort of said that, in the video. Yeah, the story is not amazing, but the main thing a musical is supposed to do is give you great music, give you great performances, great choreography, maybe costumes. This movie does all of that in spades, and the plot is interesting, but because it is rated PG, maybe they don't delve into certain things as much as they could have. But anyway, for more on Greatest Showman, you can check out that standalone video. But the movie is great. It is so rewatchable, too. You can watch it over and over again. The songs are amazing. So that one gets an A from me. The next one is Molly's Game. This was on my snubs for the Oscars because I really thought Jessica Chastain gave a great performance. The movie basically is about Molly Bloom, who was a professional athlete. She was an Olympian, and due to an injury, had to sort of get out of that game and went into the underground poker circuit. And she got in some trouble with the law with that because of who was participating in the games and the nature of the gambling rules and all of that. So she seeks out counsel in a lawyer played by Idris Elba. Kevin Costner appears in a few scenes as her father. It was written and directed by Aaron Sorkin, and I really thought Chastain should have been nominated for Best Actress for this movie. She's pretty much always great, but here, she is front and center, the absolute star of the movie. A lot of times she's in more of an ensemble picture, like The Martian or even Zero Dark 30. Yeah, she's the lead, but there's a lot of moving parts. I mean, here she's in just about every scene of the film. If not, maybe she is in every scene. So I really thought she shone in this movie. It did get a writing nomination, like I said, but I think maybe she could have been nominated as well, and it was in my top movies of the year as well. I think it was in my top 10. So Molly's Game gets an A as well. Next up is Phantom Thread. This one was on my Oscar show as a movie to kind of get rid of. It's so boring. Basically, it's the plot of it is it's set in London in the 1950s. Daniel Day-Lewis, in supposedly his last film, plays Reynolds Woodcock, who is a renowned dressmaker, and his life is disrupted by this girl named Alma, played by Leslie Manville, who was also nominated. She becomes his muse and his lover as well. A woman of conviction, a very strong will. And, the movie clocks in at almost 2.5 hours. Paul Thomas Anderson directed, and I gotta tell you, most of his movies I just find boring. The Master was his last real big one. Maybe it was his last one in general, but the last one he got a lot of accolades for, and he got nominations for that. I know Philip Seymour Hoffman was nominated for that for acting. But I just find his movies very boring. And it's not even that they're like, yes, they're high concept, I suppose, but it's more like they're just a slog to get through. Like, these characters are fine, and it's realistic, I guess, and Daniel Day-Lewis gives a great performance as always, but even in Daniel Day-Lewis's performance, like, it shouldn't necessarily have been nominated for his performance. It's a good performance, but is it worthy of a Lincoln? No, I don't think so. I found the movie boring. I can't give it a negative grade, though, because here's the thing. The performances are very good. Leslie Manville does a good job, and, the costumes are great, and the story is kind of interesting. And if you like this kind of movie, then you're going to be in paradise. You're going to be in heaven with this movie. I think these types of movies are very boring and pretentious and all of that. But, again, the performances are solid. If you're going to go see this movie, it's for the performances, and maybe for the costumes as well, if you're into period costume pieces. So I give Phantom Thread a B-. I'll never watch it again. It does not deserve all of the accolades that it got, all of the Oscar nominations. When I think about all the movies that could have been nominated other than this one, it makes me cringe. But it's not horrible. It's just boring. So that's my Phantom Thread blurb. And lastly, of the ones we've sort of talked about already, is All the Money in the World. This was in my best of the year as well. I believe somewhere in the top 20. And again, another one that maybe could have gotten more nominations than it did. Christopher Plummer got nominated for Best Supporting Actor. I thought Ridley Scott could have gotten a nomination for Best Director. This is the story of J. Paul Getty's grandson getting kidnapped. The richest man in the world at the time. This was, in the 70s. And loved his money more than his family, more than most things. And Christopher Plummer gives an amazing performance. I'm glad he got nominated. And like I said on my Oscars podcast, if you don't know the backstory, basically Kevin Spacey had the role, filmed the role, the movie was completed and set to come out right around Christmas. But the problem was Kevin Spacey then had all these allegations come up with the sexual assault, and obviously his name became sort of box office poison. So Ridley Scott reshot the movie in like 2 weeks with Christopher Plummer. Not the whole movie, but anything that J. Paul Getty was in, which is, he is a supporting character. It's Michelle Williams and Mark Wahlberg that really are the stars, but he certainly has a supporting role, and, he's in a handful of scenes, certainly, and really, he's kind of the crux of the film. I mean, without that character, there is no film. So, it was interesting that they reshot all that so quickly, and I would love to see the Kevin Spacey stuff sometime, because from people that have seen both versions say that they give a completely separate take on the character. So I would love, I'm sure it's too soon, to let that surface with Kevin Spacey, but, maybe at some point down the line, I would be very interested to see what happens. But this is a great movie. It's very compelling, and it again, is a bit long. It's over 2 hours. But you don't have to be a Phantom Thread about it. If you're going to be 2 hours, you can be interesting. Molly's Game is like 2.5 hours almost. Very engaging. So All the Money in the World gets an A from me. So let's talk a little bit deeper about the two movies I have not previously mentioned on any other podcast, and the first one is Proud Mary, and this just came out on DVD. It stars Taraji P. Henson. She plays Mary, who is a hit woman working for a Boston crime family. Her life gets shifted, though, when she meets a young boy played by, let me get the name, Jai. I'm not sure if I'm saying this right, but it's J-A-H-I, Jahai, maybe? Diallo Winston. He plays Danny, the young boy. Basically, she meets him when a professional hit goes wrong and the boy is left orphaned. So she sort of takes him in and is helping him get maturity and listen, here's what I do. I don't want you really involved with this, but he, of course, this is what he knows. So, he starts trying to help her out and stuff. And Danny Glover also plays a supporting role here as actually one of the bad guys, so against type for him. This is basically a blaxploitation film in the vein of, Foxy Brown and even some of the more recent ones like Jackie Brown. It's not done quite as well. Now, I don't have a huge history with blaxploitation movies. I would say I'm most familiar with Jackie Brown from Quentin Tarantino, and then the spoof movie I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker, from the 80s that the Wayans brothers did, specifically Keenan Ivory Wayans. But, I mean, I've seen parts of Shaft. I've seen, clips of blaxploitation movies from the 70s, but I would not say I'm well versed. So, this one is okay. Taraji P. Henson does a great job, and it gives her one more category to sort of put on her resume, because she hasn't done a lot with action. She's done, obviously, a lot of drama, and she's in one of my recent favorite movies, Hidden Figures. She's also on the TV show Empire, which I don't watch, but, that's more of like a soap opera type of drama. But here she plays an action heroine, and she does a good job. Look, I don't know if she's ever given a bad performance. She's always good, but there's not really enough here. The action doesn't really come until the end of the movie. There's a couple of scenes here or there, but it's really focused on those last few scenes when the song Proud Mary is playing by Ike and Tina Turner, which is, great, of course, and if you're going to call a movie that, you'd better have the song in it, so I'm glad they did. But just overall, it was sort of blah. It was, I don't know that I was ever necessarily bored with it, but it's a story that has been done, certainly. And I think with somebody else in the lead role, it would have been worse, for sure. So I'll give it some points for Henson's performance. And I like that they got Danny Glover against type. Usually he plays, the good guy, or the I'm getting too old for this kind of S guy. But here, he has a evil role, and he does it well. It's good to see him playing against type. So I'll give it a little bit of a point for that as well. So it's worth checking out. Now that it's on DVD, it didn't do very well in theaters. So now that it's on DVD, it may be something to check out, to rent at Redbox, or to check it out on demand or something. So I leave Proud Mary with a C+. It's okay. And finally, we've got My Friend Dahmer. This is a movie about the young Jeffrey Dahmer. We know, of course, Jeffrey Dahmer is a big serial killer, and he killed 17 men, and in a matter of, I think, they say in the movie, 16 years or something like that. 15 years, I don't know. But anyway, he killed 17 men over the course of over a decade, certainly. But this movie focuses on his life in high school, the 17-year-old Dahmer. And he's played by Ross Lynch, who I don't know, but he is a Disney kid. He was in the is it called Teen Beach Movie? I'm a little out of the demo for the Disney movies. Sometimes I do watch them, but I saw The Descendants, but I have not seen the Teen Beach Movie series, but I think that's what it's called. But Ross Lynch plays in those, and I guess he's been in a few other Disney Channel things, maybe one of their shows or something. So obviously, speaking of playing against type, I mean, to take him from Disney to the massive hardcore murderer role of Jeffrey Dahmer is pretty cool, and he does a good job with the role. You really kind of get an idea of the sort of guy he was, I guess, back in high school, and it's really his friend, though, that, I mean, I guess Dahmer's the focal point, but it's based on a book about that era that was written by his best friend Durf, who's played here by Alex Wolff, who we always see pop up. He was in Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, and he pops up all the time. And he is a former kid star too. I don't know if it was on Disney or Nickelodeon, but that show, The Naked Brothers Band, he was a part of that. So these are both child stars that are sort of branching out. It's interesting because I think Ross Lynch is a good bit younger rather than Alex Wolff, because Naked Brothers Band was like 13 or 14 years ago, and Teen Beach Movie is a little more recent. But anyway, I mean, I guess they were young kids in that show, and Teen Beach Movie is more teenagers anyway. But okay, getting off topic. But about the movie, so the downfall of the movie is that because it's from this book written by the best friend, a lot of it is on the surface stuff with Dahmer. It's more about their friendship and about how he gets treated in high school than it is about getting into the psyche of Dahmer, And obviously, we're not going to ever be able to do that, but It might have been nice, I mean, I think he threw in there some things that obviously he was told at the time, so who knows if they're true, 17-year-olds lie about their home life all the time, especially psychopaths. So who knows what is true and what's not true from the home stuff? We'll never know, I guess, for the most part. But I guess because of that, it sort of suffers a little bit for not delving more into the Dahmer character. But I do like the performances of this film, and I think that it is... I kind of want to go back and watch the Teen Beach movies now, because I would be interested to see how this Ross Lynch portrays, the fun-loving dude, because all I know him as is Jeffrey Dahmer, who is a weird dude in high school. He used to basically, pretend like he had a physical or mental handicap and, run into stores or restaurants being, I guess they would call it goofy, but, to somebody that was witnessing it or a store owner or something, it's just completely obnoxious and horrible, and in this day and age, certainly 2018, we're all very aware of, the plight of people with disabilities, so it's it seems in really poor taste now, but of course this takes place in the 70s. But, the bullying aspect of it, too, looks a lot different in 2018 than it did in the 70s, certainly. This kid really was bullied. I mean, his friends were only his friends because they were like, well, this kid will do anything for a laugh, and, if that means making him do stuff so we can make fun of him and laugh at him instead of with him, let's do it. So, that obviously plays a role, too, in his, psychotic state. So I guess in that respect we get a little bit of insight. But the movie was good. I enjoyed it. It gets a B from me. So nothing negative on the show this week. The worst one is that C+, which is pretty average, and that's for Proud Mary. But a lot of really good movies from the end of last year that are now on DVD from sort of the Oscar pool. You got Molly's Game, Greatest Showman, and All the Money in the World. Highly, highly recommended from me. So that is going to do it for Dan Reviews It. Please keep on watching these DVD reviews. I'm not sure if I'm going to continue them if they don't get a great response, but I am still trying to see just about every movie that comes out. So, in that respect, I'd like to keep doing reviews on the movies just, to at least give you guys some thoughts. But obviously the Roseanne reviews have been doing very well, and then there are a few standalone movie reviews as well. I'm going to be doing a Quiet Place one as well in a few days. I saw it over the weekend, but if you've seen it, you know that it's one you kind of need to ruminate on. So I wanted to kind of think about it for a few days before I put the review up. But there will be a Quiet Place standalone review coming as well. So thanks so much for watching, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. We're up to 205 subscribers now, which is awesome. So thanks so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye.